this edition of GamePro TV, we'll give you your first look at a couple of Nintendo 64 games, take you behind the scenes of Big Hurt Baseball, and see if Konami's got what it takes to win the gold in their latest game, International Track and Field. But first, since this is our first show, we thought it might be a good idea to explain to you what we're all about. Almost 20 years ago, Pong was the only home video game around. That was then, this is now. The video game market has grown up, producing games with incredible graphics, high production budgets, and enhanced gaming capabilities. Some games suck, some games are awesome. And before you plug down your cash, we'll tell you which ones are which. We'll show you the fighting games, the action games, the racing games, and since we're on the sports channel, of course, we're going to give you as much slam dunk and hard-hitting, high-flying, out-of-the-park sports coverage as we can cram into a show. Plus, we'll give you tips and strategies in our SWAT Pro segment, and even show you how some of your favorite games are made. Games have come a long way since the days of Pong, and are poised to even go further. Here at GamePro TV, we'll keep you up to date every step of the way. All right, now let's talk about pain. The kind of pain you feel after a full swing knuckle slap or a knee check to the face. Virtua Fighter 2 epitomizes how far home video games have come. You have the ability to play with 10 different characters, each with their own unique style of fighting. There's Wolf Hawkfield, who looks like he fell straight out of a wrestling ring. Or you can try Cage with his ninja assassin techniques, with over 30 attacks to master. In fact, all of the characters average over 30 attacks, and mastering one fighter alone will be enough to keep you busy for a while. There's no other genre of gaming that's more saturated than the fighting genre. But if you only want to buy the best one, you've got to buy Virtua Fighter 2. Flat out, it's the best fighting game ever made. The fighters are deep in their abilities and diverse in their characteristics.
I win!
And unlike some of the other fighting games on the market, there are no magic fireballs and deadly swords to use. Virtua Fighter 2 relies on realistic hand-to-hand combat. Everything about the game screams classic. The graphics are incredible, the sound is believable, and the control is absolutely idiot-proof. Bottom line, if you own a Sega Saturn, you've got to have Virtua Fighter 2.
Ora, ora, ora!
Gone are the days when a big-time ball player like Frank Thomas could simply put their names on a home baseball game and expect to sell it. Nowadays, savvy video gamers want to see the stars get more involved. Well, you don't get more involved than this. This is Acclaim's motion capture studio, where Frank helped with the making of his very own baseball game. Motion capturing is a technology used to record the actual movement of a living character to translate directly into the game.
Because it's in 3 dimensions, it allows you to change the camera view. So now we can get some of the same benefits that Hollywood has always used to create a more interesting scene, but we can do this in real time in these new platforms to where this cinematic touch can change the whole way that we played games in the past.
The designers at Acclaim had Frank slip into something a little bit uncomfortable. A specially designed suit with sensors placed strategically all over his body in order to record his every muscle twitch, including the Big Hurt's big trot.
What we're dealing with here is the complete package. We have the Big Hurt. We have the best ball player going right now. And besides that, he's a video game fan. So not only is he the license, but he's also helping us design the game. He's helping us create and add the baseball flavor to it. We've got technology that hasn't been used before. The motion capture that we're working with will give us a visual result at the end that game players haven't seen in the past. And in addition to that, we've got the game of baseball.
The goal is to give you the most realistic baseball experience imaginable. Well, let's see if they were able to pull it off. Baseball may be one of the most diverse sports to translate to a video game. Designers can go the route of creating a hardcore, statistic-heavy simulation, or they can go the other route and have everyone smashing the ball out of the park on a constant basis. A good game tries to combine both, and that was Acclaim's goal with Big Hurt Baseball. Frank Thomas isn't the only stud available in this game. Equipped with the blessing of the Major League Players Association, Big Hurt's got all the other big guys. For instance, Albert Bell, Ken Griffey Jr., and pitchers like Greg Maddux, who like all the other hurlers in the game suffer from fatigue as the innings wear on. The control in Big Hurt Baseball is fairly easy to understand. When you're on the mound, there are 8 basic pitches to choose from. And when you're at the plate, you can do everything from bunting to aiming for the gates with a hefty swing. Big Hurt also throws in a few other play modes, like the home run derby, where 10 players compete against each other in a 3-round slugfest to see who can knock the ball out the park the most. And there's also a quick play mode, where 1 strikes and out. Overall, Big Hurt Baseball steps up to the plate and delivers. And though it doesn't smash the ball out of the park, it's still a pretty enjoyable game to play. When we come back, we'll take a look at what your local arcade will look like in the future, and we'll give you helpful hints on how to become the #1 tennis player in the world in Acclaim's V-Tennis. For years, the video arcade was the dominant force in the video game industry. If you wanted to experience awesome graphics, 3D animation, and superb gameplay, there was only one place to find it, until now. Now you can have all that right at home without spending a single token. So the question is, what will the arcade industry do to stay ahead of the game?
3, 2, 1, translocation, mark!
Into virtual world.
We offer 2 multiplayer virtual reality games, okay? So up to 8 players at one time can compete or interact with each other in the 2 virtual reality games that we offer.
Players have the choice of racing through the mine canals of Mars in Red Planet, or battling each other with 30-foot walking tanks in Battletech.
But the cool thing is each pilot, and up to 8 pilots, is each actually piloting and controlling their own vehicle. He's got a throttle and a joystick controlling the steering, up and down motion. He's got the weapons, he's got the rocket boosters, okay? And like I said, he is actually controlling his vehicle, and so are the other pilots that he sees on his screen. The scenario behind it is basically Mars has become a slave labor colony. And at night, we hold these races to try and determine who gets their freedom. So if you win the race, come out with the highest score, you get your freedom. Everybody else dies. What you're seeing right now is Battletech. It's our combat game where each person is actually piloting and controlling a 4-story humanoid robot. Now my objective is to destroy that opponent before he destroys me. Got a secondary screen, which is a 360-degree radar. It shows me exactly where he is, okay, in relation to everything else. And like I said, just like Red Planet, this is a multiple of up to 8 players. So you can imagine what it's like, 8 guys running around in their own robots trying to blow each other up.
This is one of the best immersions in a virtual environment I've seen. Just a quantum leap above anything you can play at home.
You get a major adrenaline rush, and it's also, if it makes sense, a stress-relieving activity at the same time because you can take out your frustrations on your opponents. So it's like good combat fun.
It always is better to play against a human opponent rather than a, like a droid or artificial intelligence controlled opponent.
It gives a chance for the people to interact. It's a place for them to come, meet new people, experience new things, and you can see from the graphics and everything, this is the best there is.
Virtual reality centers may be the wave of the future, but to many, the local arcade is still the main place to hang. For a handful of tokens, a player has virtually every type of video game at his or her disposal. And although many gamers have the latest systems at home, nothing compares to hitting the arcade.
There's more of a variety here. You get to play a lot more games, stuff like that. And so there's like a lot of games here that's not on home system that I like playing.
There's a game here I wouldn't play at home. It's not going to be the same. Like Street Fighter games and stuff. I mean, they don't compare, to arcade and to home version.
I come in here all the time, and it's always packed. So they're doing pretty good, I guess. I mean, everyone I know has got a home system. Everybody in here has probably got more than one, but they still come out. Can't play pinball at home.
The arcade market basically drives the home market, and the competition really doesn't lie anywhere with home market and video arcade, because the only thing that the home games offer are just the graphics. The video arcade offers the competition, offers the atmosphere, offers a challenge, the whole game itself, challenges of other new players.
So whether it be at home in virtual reality or down the street, the video game industry is still the #1 entertainment business to date.
What they come up with nowadays is something else.
In Acclaim's V-Tennis, you choose from 16 players, 8 men, 8 women, all with different strengths and weaknesses. One of those characters is a bandana-wearing, Andre Agassi-type character named Falls. We're going to show you how to make him the best player in the world. Falls' strength is playing close to the net. If you're not pushing him into your opponent's face, you're not utilizing his skills. Rush to the net and hit the triangle button to volleyballs with lots of top spin. It'll be a forehand or a backhand based upon the direction you point the directional pad. Either way, it'll be a tough shot for your opponent to contend with. He has the deadliest forehand and backhand in the game. Overall, Falls is probably the most well-rounded player. He's got good foot speed and pretty impressive power. If you choose to play tournament mode, he may be the best one to win you the title. Hey, is that a Nike logo on his bandana? Stay with us. Your first look at the long-awaited Nintendo 64 game is next. Genre description. It's more than an action game. It's also a puzzle game. But it's more than a puzzle game. It's also an adventure game. And it's more than all of the above. It's a great game. In fact, it may be one of the greatest action puzzle adventure games ever made. In Resident Evil, you'll choose from two different characters, Chris Redfield, the star's Alpha Team marksman, and Jill Valentine, the team's machine and lockpick expert. The goal is to explore a mansion teeming with undead soldiers and find out what happened to the star's Bravo team that disappeared in action.
There is 3 minutes until explosion.
And if that weren't enough, you also got to get to the root of the Resident Evil that dwells within the haunted house. Sound eerie enough? Well, if it isn't, the horror-style camera angles should darken the mood even more. Plus, the creepy music will have you looking over your shoulder while you play. Throughout the game, your character adds a number of weapons to assist in getting through the adventure. Watching the results of some of your firepower is almost as fun as playing the game itself. Bottom line, Capcom may have created a whole new gaming genre with Resident Evil. There's simply no other game it compares to. Not only is it fun to play, but Resident Evil is a true testament to the power of next-generation gaming and has snatched the honor of becoming an instant classic. But one bit of advice, don't play it with the lights out. The Nintendo 64 is scheduled to hit shelves in the US on September 30th, but in Japan, June 23rd was a big day. Nintendo blitzed Japanese stores with 300,000 units on the first day. But most of these guys standing in line were pretty much out of luck because the machines were sold mostly on a reservation basis.
We expect to sell all the 64s we have in stock on the first day. Besides the many 64s we will have available to sell on the 23rd, we have been accepting reservations since the 14th, and I think we will sell the reservations out today.
Some customers have been out in front of the store since they closed the night before. The 300,000 on after the first day. 3 days later, 200,000 units were shipped out. They flew out the stores just as fast. Here in the U.S., retailers are set for the September 30th launch. And like Japan, most units can only be purchased by reservation.
What we're offering right now is a pre-sale for the Nintendo 64 system. You put down $25, and that will guarantee you a Nintendo system. Also, it doesn't come with a game, so we're also offering the game that it'll come with it for a $10 pre-sale.
The Nintendo 64 is scheduled to be released at a $250 price tag. As a result, Sony and Sega have slashed their prices in order to compete.
Once they sliced their prices, sales just took off.
Actually, the Sony and Saturn both dropped their prices within the expectation of the N64. It's been a boost as far as both systems. Sony still outsells Sega 4-1, but by Nintendo dropping their system to $199, Nintendo has actually picked up a lot of people with interest, which is something that was hard to do at $249 with no package.
So the question is, will we see lines like this in the States?
It won't be as big as it was in Japan, but there'll be a lot of people here looking for it.
If we're lucky, we'll get the lines backed up around the corners, but I don't think that'll happen. But I guarantee the same area that we're standing in will be crowded come September 30th.
But let's take a look now at what the hoopla is all about. The 64 will be the new home of the world's most popular plumber, and never has he looked so good. The Nintendo 64 really struts its stuff with Super Mario 64. The animation is more lifelike and fluid than anything ever seen on the home system, with colors and complex backgrounds that explode all over your screen. No longer is Mario restricted to moving from left to right or vice versa. In Mario 64, he can move and explore anywhere he wants, which brings you, the player, much further into his enormous world. There will be 25 worlds to explore, adding up to hours and hours of game time. Super Mario 64 hasn't been released yet, and it's probably already the leading candidate for the video game of the year. Mario 64 hits the shelves at the end of the month. Another Nintendo 64 game will be the latest from LucasArts, Star Wars: Shadows of the Empire. This Star Wars adventure takes place between The Empire Strikes Back and The Return of the Jedi, and looks to have all the action and adventure Star Wars fans are used to. The perspective changes throughout the game from fighter pilot points of view to a first-person Doom style. Shadows of the Empire will be available September 30th. When the Super NES was released years ago, Pilotwings hit the shelves the same day. In keeping with tradition, Nintendo intends to do the same with Pilotwings 64. Pilotwings is basically a flight simulator in which you fly 3 different aircraft, the gyrocopter, a hang glider, and a rocket pad over and above 27 different courses. Pilotwings won't knock you over with fast-paced arcade action, but will give you a true sense of flight through a number of beautifully rendered worlds. Pilotwings will be available the day the video game industry has waited years for, September 30th, the release date of the Nintendo 64. So you've been saving civilization from the forces of the evil Krill Empire. Yeah, hitting them where it counts, showing off some of your best skills in the heat of extreme battle. A one-man army. But unfortunately, you can't even get past the gauntlet level. What kind of hero are you anyway? Just go to the special access window and hit triangle X, triangle, square, circle, X, circle, circle, and head off to Stormland, the final level of the game. If you thought the gauntlet was tough, wait until you see the nightmare waiting for you on this dark and stormy night. Again, it's triangle X, triangle, square, circle, X, circle, circle. Good luck. Hey, tell us what you think of the show. Write us at GamePro Magazine, Dear Editor, P.O. Box 5828, San Mateo, California, 94402. Or email us through America Online. You feel your legs propelling you to move faster as the crowd cheers louder. You want to jump higher. You want to swim faster. You want to throw further. Who will be the best in the world? Well, it won't be you unless you get a lot of practice. This is Konami's hit, International Track and Field, one of the most addictive games available on the Sony PlayStation. Track and Field allows you to compete in 11 events representing several different countries. Each sport forces you to qualify a certain speed with the racing events, a certain distance in the throwing events, and simply doing that could take a lot of time. If you do qualify, then you can go after the world record in that event. Every event calls for a different technique in order to be successful. For example, in the 100-meter dash, you pretty much tap the run buttons as frantically as you can to run as fast as you can. Some of the other events are a little trickier. With the hammer toss, you have to hit the run button for a while and then hit the throw button. Getting the timing down will take a little while, but it's best to use the game's practice mode before trying to compete for real. Track and Field is a great game to play by yourself, but when you hook up with 3 other friends, the game reaches another level of excitement. Konami's Track and Field comes right off the success of this year's Olympics and does a good job of capturing the feel of going for the gold. If you're a fan of Track and Field, this is definitely the game to get a hold of.
Congratulations, you are the winner.
Well, that's all the time we have for our first show. Check your local listings to find out when this one replays. In October's edition, we'll review Super Mario 64 and Pilotwings. Also, we'll give you the latest tips and hints, and much, much more. Until then, play on. Welcome back to another edition of GamePro TV. In the next 30 minutes, we'll review Sony's Crash Bandicoot, Sega's Knights, and Nintendo 64's Super Mario 64. Plus, we'll show you just what it took to make EA's Madden 97. That's all coming up. But first, rules and regulations. This is how our review system works. Each game that we review is judged and rated in 4 categories. Graphics, in which we focus on the look and feel of the game. Control, in which we tell you how easy or difficult it is to perform the game character's action. Sound, in which we tell you if the audio action keeps up with the visual. And fun factor, where we sum up the entire game and tell you, quite frankly, if it's enjoyable or not. Each category of the game receives a rating that can go from 1.0 to 5.0, 1 being absolutely horrible and 5 being absolutely awesome. The actual rating will appear at the end of the review, where we'll sum up the whole game. So now that you understand how the system works, now let's put it into action with Sega's latest game, Nights into Dreams. As soon as you start to play Nights into Dreams, you'll find a world unlike anything you've ever seen on the home system, and it'll take you a while to get your bearings straight. Not only because of the game's unorthodox playing structure, but simply because you'll be distracted by the pure beauty of the animation. In Nights, you can choose between Claris, who has 3 dream worlds to explore, or Elliot, who must explore 3 different ones. Whichever character you choose, you must save a series of dream worlds that are under attack by Wise Man, the Wicked. In order to do that, Claris or Elliot must transform into Nights, an aerial acrobat who looks as though he doesn't have a care in the world as he flies freely through lush dreamscapes, waterfalls, and powerful air drafts. The goal is to gather 20 blue spheres and place them into an idea capture machine, which in return gives you one of the 4 orbs you need to progress to the next level. After all the orbs have been collected, return them to the Idea Palace to face that stage's boss. In a game that is absolutely stunning visually, the boss stages really stand out as the most impressive. Each boss level is full of vibrant colors and dreamy animation. In fact, the whole game captures the essence of being in a dream state with lullaby music and effortless flight. Overall, Sega's put their best foot forward with Nights into Dreams in the upcoming platform battle with Sony and Nintendo. Nights is an imaginative freefall with beautiful animation, dreamy sound, and engaging characters. In fact, it's difficult to think such a carefree character could harm anybody. But Crash Bandicoot and Super Mario, beware, Nights means business. All right, so now we go from the harmless, dreamy world of Nights to the tough, take-no-prisoners gridiron of Madden 97. Madden Football, one of the most popular football series ever, has been revamped and retooled this season with motion capture technology to create realistic animation, and they have the expertise of football's most creative minds in John Madden.
The playbook and the plays that we use are the plays that I use as a coach as a Raider, are the plays that teams are using now. The Cowboys use, the 49ers, the Packers, you know, the Raiders. They're the real plays, the real situations. And it's the combination of being real, like the NFL is real, and then being a game that you can play as a video game.
I'm constantly and continually, no matter how many times I do it, I'm amazed at how well it's put together and how well the game fits so closely to what really goes on Sunday afternoon on the field.
Well, this week the Atlanta Falcons take on the Carolina Panthers in their new stadium.
Madden 97 designers have put a lot into trying to capture the feel of an NFL television telecast. Fox's James Brown provides a pre-game introduction to each matchup, and opening game comments are brought to you by the play-by-play team of John Madden and Pat Summerall. In the late 80s, the John Madden football series revolutionized the way football video games were made and played. Now, almost 10 years later, they're trying to start the revolution all over again.
It used to be that, you know, everything was slower moving. The graphics weren't as good as they are today. We're getting now where we can take real players and simulate their movements into the game. Every year we add something that we didn't have the year before.
And what do the NFL players think of the game?
Oh, almost every stop we make, every game we do, the players are either late because they've been playing this game, or they're talking about who's winning this game, or who the best player is.
All the players, they all use the word juice, that they want more juice. They don't give them enough juice, that they're not fast enough. And there's only one player that ever told me he's too good, and that's Emmitt Smith of the Cowboys. And, you know, he said, they can't tackle me, they can't stop me. He said, they stopped me and tackled me in the game. He said, but in your game, he said, I'm just too good.
The gridiron's going to be pretty crowded this winter with a number of football games fighting for their share of the sports market. With the star power of John Madden and the proven track record of the whole Madden series, EA Sports looks like the leader of the pack. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll take you to school and show you how you can pursue a career in the video game industry. Located in the heart of downtown Vancouver, a handful of the top students in North America are hard at work, 13 hours a day. These students are the future computer programmers, designers, and animators of the video game industry. They travel far and wide to attend DigiPen, the only school in North America that teaches students specifically how to design and create video games.
The amount of stuff that I learned here, I would never have learned probably in 3 years of college education. It's been way above my expectations.
But if you think just because you're the best fighter on your block, or can master the 500 level of any platform game you're in, think again.
I think a lot of times students assume that because they're good at playing games, they're going to be good at making games. I think that's really wrong. There aren't too many similarities between the two. You don't sit here and plug in a couple of neat graphics and you have a game. You have to sit down and work it out. It's a long process and it takes a lot of work. And if you're not used to that, it is overwhelming.
Last year, 12,000 hopeful students applied to DigiPen, and only 77 were accepted into the intense program. And for the small percentage who are accepted, they soon realized it's not all fun and games.
I think that the first initial reaction would be surprise, because a lot of people don't expect to see serious mathematics and being taught at this level, but at the same time, after they get over the initial surprise, they actually very interested in it because it's the first time that they see the results of taking those mathematical equations and see the results on the screen. And that's the applied part that they're very interested in.
I mean, when you're playing the game, you're just seeing what's there on the screen. But when you're programming, there's a whole world out there that you gotta think about, worry about. It's like playing God. It's like you're making your own little world in there. And nobody else can change it but you. And you get to control everything in there. The players get to play in that world, but you get to control that world. So you can make it extremely difficult or extremely easy for everybody to play.
The volume of information packed into the 2-year course is enough to boggle the mind. Students must take computer programming, physics, calculus, and scores of other applied sciences. They then must apply these concepts in lab work for another 7 hours. And that's just the first year.
Here, we don't force our students to learn the mathematical concepts. When students see a cool game on the market, they wonder how the effect is made. So we tell them, this requires matrices. You need to manipulate 3D matrices in order for the character to flip in the air, for example. So they get interested and they want to come and learn this particular concept. So this is something that is really different that we can see, that where students are coming to us to ask us to learn more.
It was a little bit overwhelming, just the amount of information coming at us. It was incredible. It was so much stuff, but to me it's like playing, so it's not so bad.
This morning we studied the tokenizer, Lex, and so forth. And this afternoon we are going to check the parser, make a grammar out of all these tokens and see how we check them.
In 1988, Claude Comer, a top engineer in the defense industry, had a dream to use his vast knowledge of computer science and mathematics for entertainment purposes. And with the help of Nintendo, he was able to turn his dream into reality.
I remember when I met with Mr. Arakawa for the first time, the president of Nintendo of America, his main concern was, my concern as well, is that we would create a school for the industry. Here, I would like them to produce games, exactly the same kind of quality of games that you see on the market. Therefore, they have to come up with their ideas. They have to come up with their books, with their game bibles, and timelines, and development lines, development routines, technical routines, etc., etc., etc. Standard among the groups. How do they talk to each other? The protocols. They have to learn all this.
As you can see from the quality of these student projects, it's no wonder the top video game companies in the world are quickly snatching up DigiPen's graduates.
Our goal is actually to provide train personnel to enter into this industry.
It's not just trivial stuff at all. And in order to be good at it, you need the right kind of training, you need the right kind of background in order to be excellent. It is just as professional as any other.
With the continuous support from Nintendo and the superior instruction and guidance from the instructors at DigiPen, the video game companies can be rest assured that the future of the industry is in the right hands.
I'm doing something that I love. They are doing something that they love. And my aim is for them to learn sciences and solid bases that they can use in other portions of their life or whatever. They don't have to be just gamers. They could be anything they want.
Move over, Mario. Make way, Sonic. There's a new kid on the platform block. Sony's long-awaited Crash Bandicoot is finally here, ready and able to make his mark in the platform gaming world. As you race Crash through the jungle, your goal is to save his beloved Shauna from the hands of the sinister Dr. Neo Cortez. To do this, you must clear over 30 beautiful levels located on 3 different islands, each packed with a variety of treacherous obstacles. You'll face falling pits, giant crabs, killer skunks, snapping plants, rolling gates, and even Indiana Jones-style gigantic boulders. You can attack these obstacles by either jumping or with the Taz-like spin move. As in other platform games, each level gets increasingly more challenging, but free lives are readily available, hidden in numerous crates along the way. Free lives can also be earned by gathering fruit inside these crates or in bonus rounds. But as you collect these lives, don't get too confident. As you play Crash, you'll discover how quickly you'll lose those free lives. Sony went all the way out to capture the true feel of a jungle adventure, with some of the most brilliant graphics anywhere in a 32-bit system. Added with the sounds of monkeys chanting, birds chirping, and elephants blaring, Crash Bandicoot pulls the gamer deeper and deeper into the mystic forest. The gameplay is pretty basic. You can either run, jump, or spin, but the controls are highly sensitive. And if you're not careful, you can easily make a wrong move. Another fault with this control is it's tough in this 3D world to gauge just how far to jump from place to place, which can be very frustrating. Although Crash Bandicoot may not be the ultimate platform game, there are enough levels and obstacles to challenge the avid platform gamer. If you're into platform gaming, you gotta check out Sony's Crash Bandicoot. But remember, don't spin into that TNT box. Hey, tell us what you think of the show. Write us at GamePro Magazine, Dear Editor, P.O. Box 5828, San Mateo, California, 94402. Or email us through America Online. Now let's take a look at 4 new games from Activision, which will be available just in time for the holidays. How would you react if your every move could mean life or death? In Blast Chamber, a bomb is strapped to the back of each player, and they have 60 seconds to place a glowing crystal in one of 4 color-coded areas. Once a player reaches its goal, the bomb will temporarily deactivate, and the player moves onto the next chamber.
How do you behave when you have a bomb on your chest? How do you behave when you have 10 seconds left to live and you need to travel this distance? How do you behave when you've got 3 other opponents in the same chamber as you and they're trying to live and survive as well? It became really easy to design from that point.
Once inside these chambers, the player faces an onslaught of deadly obstacles. Get through in the allotted time, you move on, and if you don't, you're history.
The last one standing is the winner.
Complete all 60 chambers, you win. Sound easy? Yeah, right. MechWarrior 2 combines realistic fight simulation with beautiful 3D graphics, propelling the player into a combat-rich environment.
It took over 2 years to make, and the reason it took so long is, again, Activision's very committed to making the best title every time out, and that's how long it took to make that title just spectacular.
The player controls one of 12 different battle mechs, each with its own type of weaponry.
It's pretty violent, it's pretty combative, but not as gory.
MechWarrior 2 takes fight simulation to a new level and should be a hit with the action-adventure gamers. Wrestling fans, get ready for the ultimate challenge when Power Move Pro Wrestling hits the stores this November.
If you like watching wrestling on TV, you're going to like playing this game, because what we've done is we've brought the pile drivers, the body slams, the Frankensteiners, the top rope moves into your house by bringing it into the game. And what we did is we motion captured a bunch of different wrestlers, so it's real time. You know, when you play it, you feel like you get this like visceral feel, you know, body slamming the guy you're playing or the girl you're playing.
Power Move Pro Wrestling offers awesome graphics, realistic wrestling moves, and brings the feel and sound of the pro wrestling arena straight into your living room. Into the world of the undead as Activision goes right for the jugular and Blood Omen.
We created a huge, rich world, and we populated it with lots of interesting things to do and neat people to kill.
A hunting vampire mystery in which you, the vampire, must uncover hidden secrets as you take a bite out of characters you meet along the way. From pro wrestling to combat simulation and even killer vampires, Activision is going all out this holiday season with some of the hottest new games on the market. Are you ready to meet the ultimate challenge? Tekken 2 is here. If you thought those other fighting games were cool, you haven't seen anything until you've experienced Namco's Tekken 2 for the Sony PlayStation. It tears up any other fighting game on the market. In Tekken 2, you have the choice of 10 different characters, each packed with a full arsenal of killer combos and counterattacks. Trying to master just one character will have you fighting for hours. And with bonus rounds, you'll have up to 30 characters at your disposal. There's Law with his lightning-fast Bruce Lee style of fighting, able to annihilate his opponent in a matter of seconds. If you're into killer combos, check out King with his pile-driving, high-flying, bone-crunching wrestling moves. Or if you're into sledgehammer 1-2 knockout combos, Jack is the man. The graphics in Tekken 2 are arcade quality all the way. Each character has his own beautifully designed fighting arena. The sound is so realistic, the bone-snapping attacks will send shivers down your spine. And for the control, it's amazing as the fighters move seamlessly from one fighting combo to the next. With a little practice and some quick fingers, if you're playing Tekken 2, you won't even bother to load up any other the competition. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll review Mario 64. And now it's time for GamePro TV's Top 10 Games of the Month. Ready? Here we go. And the #1 game of the month.
It's me, Mario.
Super Mario 64 is the most technologically advanced game ever produced for any home system. The animation moves at a smooth 30 frames a second, and the world that Mario inhabits is completely 3D. And it's also non-linear, meaning there's no set track to follow. Mario can go anywhere and everywhere that he chooses. The animation of Mario alone is incredible and breathtaking to watch. And getting him to perform all his moves is almost as fun as playing the game itself. But aside from all the technical wonders, Super Mario is also a pure joy to play. The platform wars have heated up with Sony's Crash Bandicoot, Sega's Knights, and Nintendo's Super Mario 64. But it's really no contest. Mario 64 is a milestone for the video game player and the video game industry. No game to date has been able to combine technology and fun the way this game does. Nintendo needed a game that could showcase the power of their 64-bit machine and show just how different it is from Sega and Sony's 32-bit boxes, and Mario does that and more. In terms of genre description, Mario 64 falls into the platform category, but its levels of excellence exceeds all boundaries. Across the board, Mario 64 receives 5.0s all around. Everything about the game is awesome, and just proves that even though the machine and the game itself have arrived a year later than the original release date, Nintendo was right in making sure the quality would be worth the wait. Well, that'll just about do it for this show. Check your local listings to see when this one replays. And join us next month when we'll bring you all the latest games, plus tips and hints as well. This has been Rick Party, and I'll see you next month. Until then, play on.
Welcome to another edition of GamePro TV. On today's show, we'll show you the game that Robert De Niro, Aerosmith, and other Hollywood celebrities have just put together. We'll have a conversation with the two men who created the entire Mortal Kombat series and give you a sneak peek of a game that's poised to take the entire industry by storm, Tomb Raider. But first, rules and regulations. This is how our review system works. Each game that we review is judged and rated in 4 categories. Graphics, in which we focus on the look and feel of the game. Control, in which we tell you how easy or how difficult it is to perform the game character's actions. Sound, in which we tell you if the audio action keeps up with the visual. And fun factor, where we sum up the entire game and tell you, quite frankly, if it's enjoyable or not. Each category of the game receives a rating that can go from 1.0 to 5.0, 1 being absolutely horrible and 5 being absolutely awesome. The actual ratings will appear at the end of the review, where we'll sum up the whole thing. In addition to reviews, we also give you tips and tactics in our Swap Pro segment. In fact, later in the show, we'll help you get through parts of Nintendo's latest game, Super Mario 64. But first, let's take a look at EA Sports Madden 97. EA Sports tried to capture the look and feel of an NFL telecast, and they pretty much succeeded by having Fox's James Brown handle pregame introductions, and Madden and Summerall give the player on-camera tips before the game.
When you're going into the wind, like today, there's no way you can throw the ball.
But what most gamers really care about is the action on the field, and EA made sure that no player would walk away disappointed. All 30 stadiums were rendered for the game and make an appearance in a sweeping fly-through before the coin toss. Of course, all the teams are present, but in addition to the 30 that are in existence now, all the teams that have ever played in the Super Bowl are present as well. And as if that weren't enough, you can also have the all-Madden team strap on their helmets as well. Another cool aspect of Madden 97 is that not only can you handle all the action on the field, but you can also try your hand at running the front office where you have to deal with real-life concerns such as a salary cap. You can also create a player, but the better that player is, the more money he's going to demand, affecting your cap even more. All of these new options add extra dimensions to Madden 97, but none of it matters if the gameplay misses the mark, and like all the other Madden football games of the past, Madden 97 doesn't fall short in any way. There are over 300 plays to learn, and the players in the game play up to or down to their real NFL counterparts. Passing the ball can be a bit tricky and take a while to get used to. In some cases, you have 6 receivers to choose from on a single play, and figuring out how to complete a pass will have your fingers flying all over the control pad. But once you get used to the configurations, you'll be marching up and down the field like a pro. One criticism of Madden 97 is that after a while, John Madden's in-game comments will start to get repetitive and lame.
That one didn't surprise anyone.
And the pregame introductions by Brown, Summerall, and Madden are so generic they border on being completely unnecessary.
Thank you, JB and John. We do have a lot of wind today. What do you think our team's doing?
But aside from that, Madden 97 is a winner and has a huge lead on some of the other football games that are due out this year. Let's see if they can hold on to it. Back in the 80s, when Centipede and Pac-Man were the hits of the arcade, 2 video game designers had a dream to create the ultimate fighting game.
Both Ed Boon and myself wanted to explore the possibilities of doing a fighting game, and we both had our different ideas on it, and we kind of came together and talked about that and decided that, that this was something we wanted to pursue.
And when that dream finally became reality, it revolutionized the video game industry forever.
I think we finished the game in 8 months, and we put it on test in the arcades, and everybody, you know, we noticed a big crowd of people around it, and we knew we had something, you know, at least popular. We didn't know it was going to become what it did.
Since 1991, Mortal Kombat has sold more than 15 million home games. More than $570 million have been dropped into the arcade machines, and 2 feature films have been produced based on the hit arcade game.
I don't think we could have guessed in a million years that it would get to this level.
And now, you know, when something big happens, it doesn't take us back as much. You know, we don't get intimidated by it really. We just kind of like feel like it's all part of the process, and it's just all the more pressure to make the next game better, because it becomes expected that everything with the name Mortal Kombat on it is going to be the biggest thing, you know, in its industry.
But after all the success, you'd think video game designers Ed Boon and John Tobias would take a break from all the frenzy. Wrong. They're busy working around the clock, cranking out the next installment in the Mortal Kombat legacy, MK4. The eagerly awaited 3D version, which will hit the arcades next year.
I think both of us are real fighting game fans. Number one, I mean, we play all the games that are out there. Some we like, some we don't like. Mortal Kombat we try to keep as original as possible. I think competition-wise, we always seem to just beat everybody out in the arcades. I mean, you know, we're pretty confident, I think, when we put one of the games out that it's going to do real well.
We've managed to do these games relatively quick because we're really trying to capitalize on the anticipation that the public has for the next one. Unfortunately, you know, they're a lot less patient than we have time to execute them. There's a lot of work that people don't realize goes into these games, but still we really want to keep this Mortal Kombat thing, you know, fresh and current.
Their latest creation is MK Trilogy, a compilation which will be made available for the Sony PlayStation and the Nintendo 64.
Whenever we release an arcade version of the game, we're limited by memory constraints, and there's only so many characters we can fit in. What we decided to do with Trilogy was just kind of introduce every character that we've ever created in the previous 3 Mortal Kombat games, just to kind of give the player the ultimate Mortal Kombat experience.
We're working on Mortal Kombat 4, Mortal Kombat Mythologies, Mortal Kombat Trilogy, and as well as, you know, Ultimate Mortal Kombat for the home games. So it's kind of become it's just like this beast that we have to keep feeding.
Stay with us. GamePro TV will be right back. EA went all out to bring you the most unique and realistic war simulation game on the market today.
Now get us out quick.
Get set for Soviet Strike. EA picked the brains of the top military experts to make Soviet Strike as real as you get.
I believe in large measure the expertise that I have garnered and brought to the game is not so much as to what the attack strike helicopter did in this situation as much as what the individual might do in a real situation. See, the games you play are for fun. The games we play are for real.
I think that we also had an opportunity to pass on some of the ideas about the importance of thinking in modern war. War is no longer a brute force thing by any means, that the side, the player, the commander who does the best thinking, other things being equal, is probably the one who's going to win.
Utilizing actual combat situations, EA designers bring the game to life.
The action side's very intense. It's the equivalent of an action movie in a video game. There's lots of plot twists, there's lots of thrilling rescues, there's lots of big surprises. It's not just kind of a mindless go blow things up. There's a progressive push-pull to the story that takes the player more and more into the situation that they're in.
We're in grave danger. He's planning to drive.
I think Soviet Strike is a really good example of Hollywood meeting Silicon Valley. The typical scenario we have in Strike is you get to be the hero. It's a lone chopper, you get to take a co-pilot, you go behind enemy lines, you have 11th hour rescues, you have last-ditch efforts, you have high-speed car chases. So the action is very intense in what you're doing in the product, and the product plays out very much like a Hollywood movie. So we took this map and then we scanned it into the computer, where right on the development station, the implementers could see the map, see where the roads go. So what we were able to do is to take a chopper like this and fly through the world, following the arrows, acting as if what it would be like to attack this many tanks at one time, coming over here and visiting this village, or heading over this way and rescuing our co-pilot from the sanitarium.
I've been taken prisoner with several other agents.
Full motion video is also used throughout the game to add to the chaotic frenzy of warfare.
Ultimately, when we were shooting the video, we went on location to Prague and shot a number of the newscasts so we would have a realistic Eastern European feel to it.
We paid a lot of attention to detail. We're constantly trying to make things behave pretty much as they would within the limits of the technology and the hardware. So, you know, the vehicles, when they move around corners, they slide a little bit. We've tried to put lots of touches in. The waves here go up and down gently. So I'd say it creates a much, much more realistic and more involving experience.
What I want to do is, why don't we climb on up and we can show you some of the stuff inside. When the EA people were down here, they clearly wanted to have a chance to hear the tanks, to see how they ran. It gave them some idea of how you can knock a tank out and when you have to be careful about the tank knocking you out.
If you're looking for high-powered strategic war simulation, EA Soviet Strike is right on target.
Mission accomplished.
All right, now let's help you make some sense out of Super Mario 64 in our Swap Pro segment. If you own a Nintendo 64, you probably own Super Mario 64. And if you own Super Mario 64, you're probably asking yourself, how in the world am I supposed to finish this game? Well, we'll show you. In Super Mario 64, there are 120 stars to collect, but you only need to gather 70 to finish the game. There are 6 stars to gather in course number 1. We'll show you where the first 3 are. First, follow the dirt path up and head through this hole in the gate. Stay on the path all the way up to the top of the hill, avoiding the rolling balls as you go. Once you reach the top, you'll go up against a sub-boss. Beating him is pretty easy. Just run behind him. Press the B button to grab him. Then move the joystick in a circular motion to spin him. Then press the B button again to give him a toss. Do this 3 times and you'll beat him. Your reward, star number 1. To get star number 2, re-enter the course and you'll encounter a giant turtle that will invite you to race to the top of the hill. Don't worry about running as fast as you can. We'll show you a shortcut to the top. As you head up the hill, enter the first hole you see along the way. Once inside, you'll warp to the top of the hill. At that point, you just wait for your slow turtle friend to make it to the top. The prize for winning the race?
Here we go!
Now, to collect the 3rd star, re-enter the course again and talk to the red bomb guys. Of course, they will be talking in English, unlike the Japanese version we've got. When you're done talking to them, all the cannons in the course will open. Now, head up the dirt path again and jump over the fence to one of those cannons. Hop in and shoot yourself up to the floating plot of land above. Once there, jump up and hit the yellow box, and voila, the 3rd star. Stay tuned to future episodes of GamePro TV for more help with this incredible game, or get a copy of GamePro magazine for in-depth advice as well. Hey, Mario wasn't the only game released for the Nintendo 64. Pilotwings 64 also hit the shelves on September 29. The basic premise of Pilotwings is to use the principles and laws of flight to perform airborne maneuvers and to land successfully on specified landing targets. To a degree, Pilotwings is a flight simulator, but a flight simulator with a Nintendo touch. In the beginning of the game, you can choose to fly via the wind-dependent, free-floating, hang glider, the powerful and difficult-to-control rocket pack, or the less powerful and more controllable gyrocopter. Pilotwings 64 has a comfortable, laid-back appeal. The action moves at a moderate pace and feels more realistic than most other video games on the market. But don't be fooled. Pilotwings is a tough game to play and it's very addictive. You'll find yourself flying through these beautifully rendered 3D worlds again and again, trying to get the course and landing right. Like Mario 64, Pilotwings gameplay is completely non-linear, meaning you can fly anywhere you want, but in some cases, wandering too far off course could cost you dearly. If, for example, you run out of wind beneath your hang glider wings, you could find yourself headed for a vicious tumble. Nintendo obviously knew that the worlds they created were going to be beautiful, because in some cases, you have the ability to take snapshots of the scenery along the way. The control can be tricky in places, and the soundtrack will start to get on your nerves after a while. But other than that, it showcases the power of the Nintendo 64 with smooth graphics and a series of complete 3D worlds. Pilotwings 64 won't blow you away at first sight, but it has an appeal and a personality that will grow on you and force you to come back and play again and again, especially if you're a flight simulation fan. When we come back, we'll give you a first look at the much-anticipated Tomb Raider. Stay with us. Hey, tell us what you think of the show. Write us at GamePro Magazine, Dear Editor, P.O. Box 5828, San Mateo, California, 94402, or email us at America Online, keyword GamePro.
Hollywood and the video game industry often work hand in hand, combining their talents to produce some of the hottest games on the market.
I say a movie, that's all backstory that's behind what's going on, and you show some things in the film, of course, but this you show so many different sides of one situation, one character, one whatever.
Today, Tribeca Interactive and GT Interactive, two of the fastest growing entertainment software companies, have joined forces to bring you 9 for the home computer.
The storyline of 9 involves a place called The Last Resort, a resort for artists, painters, poets, writers, to come when they lost their inspiration, when their creative juices had gone dry. It was sort of a fantasy island for artisans.
Some of Hollywood's biggest celebrities lent their voices to breathe life into the 9 characters.
As film producers, we bring you know, a great deal to the party here because we can access all kinds of talent, whether that's Cher or Christopher Reeve or Aerosmith, all of who are doing our Game 9.
We are compelled to remove that from your grasp.
Even Steven Tyler and Joe Perry of Aerosmith found time to give the game an added twist.
Yeah, we're really excited to actually see it done, you know, because it's like all these pieces, the way these games are put together, it's so in pieces, you know, like from the concept on the storyboard to seeing bits and pieces on somebody's power book, and then throwing the voices in. It's always exciting to see it all put together, you know, so we're excited about that.
The unique and bizarre world of 9 was created by famous rock album cover designer Mark Raider.
When you're doing, you know, an album cover, you have one shot, one composition to work out. On the game, I'm doing more like interior decorating, designing a whole room, which has to look good from lots of different angles, so it's not one composition, it's a multitude of compositions. The possibilities are really endless with the CD-ROM. You can really see the potential to do just about anything.
With the combined talents of Hollywood and GT Interactive, 9 takes PC games to a new level.
Welcome to the last resort.
Now let's take a look at a couple of games due out soon. Tomb Raider by Core Design has got the whole industry waiting with anticipation. The main character is Lara Croft, and the world she explores is completely 3D. But what's most impressive is that the player can move anywhere at any time, adding to the game's realism. Laura's animation is intriguing as well. As you can see, she can do more than just walk around and enjoy the sights. Core Design paid specific attention to how she interacted with her environment. Tomb Raider is a platform game like Sony's Crash Bandicoot and Sega's Knights, but at this point, it already looks as though it may surpass both of those in quality. Tomb Raider will be available mid-November. Acclaim is set to hit the gridiron this year with another installment of NFL quarterback Club 97. All 30 NFL teams will be present along with their current player rosters and over 500 new plays to choose from. Acclaim used the same patented motion capture technology as they used in the making of their moderately successful title, Big Hurt Baseball. This time, they brought in Adrian Morrell and Lonnie Young of the New York Jets for the process.
Now I'm seeing how bad I look.
Last year's Quarterback Club didn't set the world on fire, and this year with Madden 97 already out and Sony's football game on the way, the competition looks pretty tough. Quarterback Club will be available later this month. Now, let's take a look at GamePro TV's top 10 video games of the month. Stay with us. GamePro TV will be right back. Well, that would just about do it for this show. Check your local listings to see when this one replays. And join us next month when we'll bring you all the latest games plus tips and hints as well. So until then, play on.
a video game? ASC Games and GamePro brings you the ultimate perfect weapon sweepstakes. Go online to GamePro.com. Enter the ASC Games Ultimate Perfect Weapon Sweepstakes. ASC will fly one grand prize winner to Toronto, Canada, where they will be digitized as the next version of Perfect Weapon. Other prizes, Perfect Weapon leather jackets, and of course the ultimate game, Perfect Weapon. Prizes totaling over $50,000. But you gotta go online to win. All entries must be received by December 31st.
Welcome to another edition of GamePro TV. Later in the show, we'll raid the shopping malls to find out which game system will be nestled under your tree this Christmas. You'll meet the pro stars EA Sports called upon for the making of NBA Live 97 and tell you what we think of NHL 97. That's all coming up. But first, rules and regulations. This is how our review system works. Each game that we review is judged and rated in 4 categories. Graphics, in which we focus on the look and feel of the game. Control, in which we tell you how easy or how difficult it is to perform the game character's actions. Sound, in which we tell you if the audio action keeps up with the visual. And fun factor, where we sum up the entire game and tell you, quite frankly, if it's enjoyable or not. Each category of the game receives a rating that can go from 1.0 to 5.0, 1 being absolutely horrible and 5 being absolutely awesome. The actual ratings will appear at the end of the review, where we'll sum up the whole thing. Ah, the holiday season. Trees decorated, people shopping, playful creatures dancing with cheer. This is the time of year when we remember that it's better to give than to receive. But if your goal is to give somebody a Nintendo 64, you may be out of luck.
We sold more than what actually we had available, and then Nintendo was not able to supply the demand. You know, considering the fact that they're selling to Japan and other countries, plus the United States.
You would just basically have to try and shop around. It's kind of like the Cabbage Patch Kids of '96. You'd be very, very fortunate to get one by Christmas.
Well, that's bad news for those hoping that Santa will bring the perfect gift, and even worse news for all of Santa's helpers.
Mom's not trying to buy it, Santa's trying to buy it. And Santa's been looking everywhere and having a very hard time.
I would like any of them. I don't really care, but I'd really want to get Nintendo 64, but if I got these, I wouldn't mind.
The demand for the 64 is so enormous, retailers are comparing the system to the Cabbage Patch dolls in terms of sales. These innocent little dolls caused a craze in 1983, when 3 million flew off the shelves in 6 months, scooping in $64 million in sales. But the Nintendo Super Machine is set to outpace those numbers. By Christmas, over 1.5 million units will have been sold since the September 29th launch, and total sales will exceed $300 million.
People have requested on a daily basis. We may get anywhere from 30 to 40 people requesting it on a daily basis.
While most consumers are having a hard time finding the Nintendo 64 in stock, sales for the Sony PlayStation and the Sega Saturn have gone up.
I think Nintendo has affected the market substantially. They've created a big hype for the system, you know, that's out right now. It's just a shame that we don't have the systems in stock. But because of that, it's drove customers into our stores looking for the systems where, you know, they got to know about the Sony PlayStation, the Saturn, and also we're taking prepays from the Nintendo, so when we do get them in stock, you know, they will go to the customers.
Like I said, I think with something like this, if this is the specific game that they really want, Santa will wait till after Christmas and maybe give them a rain check or something, and he'll drop it off later.
One of the hottest selling games of the year, let alone the holiday season, will be Tomb Raider by Eidos Interactive. We'll show you why in our GamePro review. The video game world has been dominated by happy plumbers, flying elves, and crashing bandicoots lately. Cool games, but not very mature. Meet Lara Croft, that star of Eidos Interactive's eagerly anticipated Tomb Raider. Don't let her good looks fool you. She may be the toughest, most resourceful adventurer to ever run, jump, shoot, or backflip across your TV screen. The story of Tomb Raider is set up at the beginning of the game, when Laura is hired by a woman named Jacqueline Nadala to recover an ancient artifact of considerable power.
There's this little trinket. An age-old artifact of mystical power is buried in the unfound tomb of Qualapec. That's my interest.
From there, the adventure begins, spanning across 15 different levels with diverse geographical environments and ornery vicious creatures, including dinosaurs. But none of them are a match for the two-gun-toting Laura, who's got more moves than Barry Sanders in the open field. Her character contains over 2,000 frames of animation, making her movements the smoothest of any game this side of Super Mario 64. The designers at Eidos knew that getting used to controlling Laura would take some practice, so they provided an extra level set aside to do just that.
Welcome to my home. I'll take you on a guided tour.
Inside, the gamer can get comfortable with all of her movements in a safe, warm, and fuzzy environment. Much better than trying to figure them out as the world's crashing in around you. Tomb Raider's been compared to a number of games out on the market, most notably Capcom's Resident Evil. Both titles share similar camera angles, 3D environments, and a unique blend of action, strategy, and adventure. But Raider surpasses Resident Evil in many categories. First, unlike Evil's pre-modeled corridors, Tomb Raider's world is modeled completely on the fly, making the gameplay non-linear and allowing the player to go anywhere he or she chooses at any time. Plus, Laura's animation is much more fluid than the stiff and bulky characters in Capcom's horror classic, an element the designers at Eidos paid specific attention to. Another game Tomb Raider's been compared to is Super Mario 64, which is high praise considering Raider is only a 32-bit game. The comparisons are made because both titles are 3D and non-linear. Both Mario and Laura inhabit huge worlds, and both characters are required to think and solve problems in order to be successful. But the action in Tomb Raider is much more immediate than that of Mario's and definitely more adult. Bottom line, Tomb Raider allowed all of the other platform games a 2 to 3 month head start, but now jumps into the race as a winner and could possibly end up beating Mario 64 as the video game of the year. So if you're looking for some hot action from a tough and sexy woman, check out Tomb Raider. It will be worth your while.
Now I'd better take off these wet clothes.
When we come back, we'll talk to the brains behind EA Sports Andretti Racing. Racing fans, strap yourself in and get set for Andretti Racing. EA Sports went all out to capture the adrenaline rush and precision timing of professional auto racing. If you think this is a crack-em-up, freewheeling thrill ride, think again. In Andretti Racing, driving skill is essential for winning. Like real auto racing, if you're not careful, you'll be out in no time. EA picked the brains of the Andretti Racing family, Mario, Michael, and Jeff, to add their insight to the game.
Between Michael, Jeff, and myself, I think we all three, certainly bring on different demographics and different times and different styles.
And how does Mario compete off the track against his sons?
The biggest thing that strikes me is that I can't come close to beating these guys, but don't tell anybody.
In Andretti Racing, the driver has the choice of several camera angles, from bumper to bumper to helmet cam. Drivers have to qualify, hit pit stops, and make carefully calculated turns in order to compete.
We're looking for advantage, disadvantage, curbing, how the car reacts. You know, you can incorporate, there's so much you can do, only if you know what is important.
In Andretti Racing, the driver has the choice of stock car and Indy style of race cars. In stock car racing, the driver can be a bit more reckless, but you still need driving smarts to compete. With the onslaught of racing games this holiday season, Andretti Racing takes the checkered flag. Well, while EA's Andretti Racing may be pretty intense, this game, Formula One by Psygnosis, may be even better. Psygnosis broke down the gameplay of Formula One down into two main categories. The difficult and challenging Grand Prix mode, where track and car conditions are very realistic, and the speedy, action-packed arcade mode, where the gameplay is more energetic and immediate. No other game combines the speed, sound, and feel of Formula One racing like this excellent title from Psygnosis. The speed in which polygons fly by your car rivals that of Namco's classic Ridge Racer. The action whisked by at a brisk 30 frames a second, and the sound is unbelievable. No other sport in the world sounds like real F1 racing, and this game captures it beautifully. You can race as any driver on the circuit with such stars as Michael Schumacher, Gerhard Berger, and Rubens Barrichello, to name a few. But what's cool is that each driver's skill level in a game is calculated based upon the racer's real-life racing history. All 17 tracks from the 1995 F1 season were meticulously rendered by the Psygnosis team, paying specific attention to detail. Every turn, grandstand, and building at the Monaco Grand Prix has been placed at the right place at the right time. The beauty of Hockenheim in Germany was rendered perfectly, and the wide-open roads of Silverstone in Great Britain were captured to exacting detail. Psygnosis used over 300 polygons to render the car that the gamer uses in the race, and they also used the same poly count for a second car for instances in which two cars are close to each other, battling out neck to neck. As the distance between the cars increases, the poly count drops to around 150, but it's a difference you won't be able to tell. At times, there are over 20 cars on the track at once, and each racer's artificial intelligence matches the typical racing strategies of that computer character's real-life counterpart. So you'll find that some racers are easier to get around than others, and some are more aggressive when trying to take the lead. Psygnosis' decision to avoid typical carbon copy intelligence that applied to all of the racers, and instead giving each racer his own style, takes the game to another level. All of the features in Formula One are outstanding, but probably one of the most entertaining is the ability to replay not one or two, but every single lap of the race, so that you can see just how dominant you were on the track. You can choose between all kinds of camera angles, but probably the most enjoyable is the one modeled after Formula One television coverage, complete with play-by-play from the world-renowned announcer Murray Walker. Psygnosis has garnered a reputation for making great racing games with their other titles, Wipeout and Destruction Derby. Their latest, Formula One, ranks right up there with them, with a mix of realism and great gameplay. Lock yourself in and get ready for Metal Mayhem at its best. Twisted Metal 2 World Tour for the Sony PlayStation is here. Twisted Metal 2 combines the high-speed intensity of auto racing with the kill or be killed thrill of battle. Now you can create havoc all over the world, from the earthquake ruins of LA, through the streets of Hong Kong, high atop the skyscrapers of New York, on the frozen tundra of Antarctica, across the inferno-laden fields of South America, or trash the city of Gay Paris. Each arena offers a different challenge and a completely different battle strategy. And if you're not careful, you'll be history in no time. In Twisted Metal 2, you have the choice of a variety of killer cars, from a Road Warrior assault vehicle, to a slam-em-up front-loader, to a high-flying race car who sends opponents hurling in a tornado-like death spin. And if you're into total annihilation, check out Axel, a half-human, half-vehicle psychotic maniac who creates utter chaos wherever he goes. One cool thing about Twisted Metal 2, you can even program killer combo moves such as Freeze and Destroy, which will drive your opponents nuts. Each vehicle has its own special type of weaponry, and some cars are easier to handle than others. With a little practice, you'll be pulling off killer hairpin turns with ease. But no matter which vehicle you choose, the gameplay is just as fierce and intense. As you battle your opponents, various types of weapons are readily available and can also be found in buildings, cars, and other hidden areas. Don't worry if you pick off a few pedestrians along the way. It just adds to the chaotic frenzy. But one note, as you drive, be careful not to crack up your car too much. It'll suck life out of your vehicle and make you much more vulnerable. In Twisted Metal 2, you can take on a friend in challenge mode, or if you're feeling gutsy, take on up to 6 crazed killers at once. Defeat all 6 and move on to the next level. Combine the two, and the action really heats up. If you're into bone-crunching, shoot-'em-up total annihilation blitzkrieg, combined with the high-speed adrenaline rush of racing, Twisted Metal 2 by Singletrack should be on your Christmas list. All right, we go from one game of mass destruction to another. Psygnosis is back with Destruction Derby 2. In Derby 2, there are 3 different modes of play. In Wreck and Racing, the goal is to both finish a set number of tracks and to inflict as much damage as possible on any and everything with wheels. The stock car racing mode is another matter altogether. No points are given for the havoc you create for the other drivers. Your goal is to simply win the race. And then there is the infamous Destruction Derby, a mode described by Psygnosis as total car carnage. The graphics in DD2 have beefed up a bit, and the animation is just as realistic and fatal as the first installment. But the controls are a little hypersensitive in places, and will take some getting used to, especially in the race modes. You'll also have to get used to the Destruction Derby mode. 20 cars enter, and the winner is the last car rolling. It's supposed to be every driver for himself, but it's obvious that that's not the case. You're the white car, and as you can tell, you don't have a single friend in the match. Surviving longer than 10 cars is a stiff challenge. Hanging on longer than 19 is almost impossible. In all, there are 4 destruction bowls and 7 racetracks in the game, and Psygnosis did a great job of getting the cars in the game to obey the real-life laws of crash physics. But after a while, the game can get pretty repetitive. But if you enjoy Destruction Derby 1, you'll enjoy Derby 2. The premise is the same: destroy or be destroyed. Stay with us. NHL 97 is next. And earn your chance to win big in the GamePro 100th issue Super Prize giveaway. On sale wherever magazines are sold mid-December. Earlier, we reviewed Eidos Interactive's awesome new game, Tomb Raider. A pretty tough game. Well, we're going to make it a little easier on you. For the Sony PlayStation, go to your inventory screen and hit L1, triangle, R2, L2, L2, R2. Circle, and L1, and Laura will add a few more weapons to her arsenal. 2 Uzis, 2 Magnums, and a shotgun that takes no prisoners. Again, go to your inventory screen and hit L1, triangle, R2, L2, L2, R2, circle, and L1. Now, if you've got Tomb Raider on the Sega Saturn and can't seem to get off the first few stages, we've got a gift for you as well. Just go to the exit page in your passport and hit Z, Y, Z, Y, X, 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 then the start button, and you can skip to any level in the game, including the final one. Again, go to the exit page on your passport and hit Z, Y, Z, Y, X, 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 then the start button. Enjoy! Now, let's take a look at what's new from EA Sports. Just in time for the holidays, NBA Live 97 from EA Sports hits the courts, hoping to capture the NBA title from the other NBA action games on the market. In NBA Live 97 for the Sony PlayStation, all 29 teams are represented with some of the most intense, in-your-face, slam-jamming NBA action found anywhere in a game today. Utilizing 3D motion capture, Mitch Richmond of the Sacramento Kings suits up to add his own personal playing style to NBA Live 97.
So when we're bringing in a top NBA player like Mitch, you can really see the extra, just, you know, finesse that he has on all of the moves, and the way he spins, the way he lets go of the ball at the end, everything. And that's going to translate into the game so that the user's just going to be able to have that much more of an accurate NBA feel.
We play a lot on our team playing. You know, we just play throughout. You know, whoever loses get off the game and the other guy comes on. So we have tournaments too, so it's very fun.
In NBA Live 97, more than 50 offensive plays are offered, and each player plays up to his real-life abilities.
Shaquille O'Neal! When you're going to be playing this game, come Christmas time, you know, you open up on Christmas morning, pull this out, you go up there and you do, you know, some of the fadeaway jumpers, and it's going to blow you away.
If you're looking for realistic, heart-pounded NBA action, you got to check out NBA Live 97 from EA Sports. Without a doubt, it takes home the title. Hockey fans, the action really heats up this winter with EA Sports NHL 97. Like Madden 97, EA went all out to capture the high-intense, in-your-face, last-minute thrills and spills of NHL hockey. All 26 teams are represented each with their own respected arenas. You also have the choice of the East-West All-Stars. And like other sports games, you can make trades and create players. Before each contest, the starting lineups are introduced. Due to the active trading this year, some players still may be on their old teams, but you got to give the developers a break. It takes at least a year to create a game such as NHL 97. Each game is introduced by hockey analyst John Davidson.
I'm John Davidson, and we have a great matchup here tonight.
And he provides commentary throughout the period intermissions.
Neither team has really seized the momentum and taken control of the game.
In NHL 97, the player has the option of viewing the game from 9 different camera angles, including helmet cam. This view may really suck the player into the action, but unless you're an experienced player, it's almost impossible to follow the puck. These various camera angles can also be applied to instant replays, where you can focus on a specific area and a specific player so you won't miss one bit of the action. At first, stick handling can be tricky, and just trying to control the puck can take some time. But with some practice, once you get used to the speed, you'll be drop passing, hitting one-timers, shooting slap shots, nailing your opponents into the boards, or checking in no time. The player also has the choice of controlling his own goalie or auto goaltending. And line changes act the same way. Like real hockey, if one line has been on the ice for a while, the players will grow tired, and it will be time to bring in a fresh line. Penalties are quickly awarded for sloppy play and cheap shots, so if you're not careful, you could be down 1 or 2 players in no time. EA's NHL 97 offers excellent graphics, intense gameplay, and brings the feel and excitement of in-your-face hockey right into your living room. Now, let's take a look at GamePro TV's top 10 video games of the month. Stay with us. GamePro TV will be right back. Well, that's it for this show. Next month, we'll recap the best games of 1996 and look ahead to what's new in 1997. Plus, we'll give tips and hints in our SWAT Pro segment. That's next month. But until then, play on. Welcome to this edition of GamePro TV as we mark the beginning of a new year. On today's show, we'll look back and tell you which games we thought were the best of 1996. We'll show you the star power behind Virgin Interactive's latest PC creation, Toonstruck, and help you get through sections of Eidos Interactive's hit, Tomb Raider. But first, rules and regulations. This is how our review system works. Each game that we review is judged and rated in 4 categories. Graphics, in which we focus on the look and feel of the game. Control, in which we tell you how easy or how difficult it is to perform the game character's actions. Sound, in which we tell you if the audio action keeps up with the visual. And fun factor, where we sum up the entire game and tell you, quite frankly, if it's enjoyable or not. Each category of the game receives a rating that can go from 1.0 to 5.0, 1 being absolutely horrible and 5 being absolutely awesome. The actual ratings will appear at the end of the review, where we'll sum up the whole thing. Now that you know how the system works, let's put it into action with a review of EA Sports NBA Live 97. One of the biggest trends of 1996 was the use of motion capturing technology for the creation of video games. Motion capturing is the technique used to reconstruct the elusive quality of live action by strategically placing sensors on a living object to record actual movement. Stars like NBA Jam's Juwan Howard were used to create a new brand of motion realism never seen before in video games. The designers at EA Sports called in the Sacramento Kings' Mitch Richmond for the recording process.
So when we're bringing in a top NBA player like Mitch, you can really see the extra, just, you know, finesse that he has on all of the moves, and the way he spins, the way he lets go of the ball at the end, everything. And that's going to translate into the game so that the user is just going to be able to have that much more of an accurate NBA feel.
But animation isn't everything. Gameplay is what separates the winners from the losers. In NBA Live 97, you have all the options available to you that any real NBA coach would have. You can run whatever offense you choose and motivate your players to play that tenacious style of defense you're famous for. Each team has a full roster, and players suffer from fatigue, injury, and poor shooting performances, just like in the pros. But one word of caution, if you're looking to sign a long-term deal with the Chicago Bulls because of Michael Jordan, or the Houston Rockets to coach Charles Barkley, you'd better think again, because neither player made the final cut. Instead, mysterious roster players with no past and no college affiliation have taken their place. So you've been given infinite powers, including the ability to create Michael Jordan if you want, and put him on your roster. The powers of general manager are at your disposal as well, enabling you to release and trade players at will.
All in all, the designers at EA did a decent job of making the gamer feel that he or she was in charge of a real NBA team with a number of gaming options. The characters are comparatively small when measured up against Sony's title NBA Shootout. And falling in love with this screen is a must because the loading process is one of the longest in video game history. But NBA 97 captures the essence of real basketball with better than average animation and realistic gameplay.
Shaquille O'Neal.
Back in 1992, when NBA Jam hit the arcades, it was the first game ever licensed by the NBA. From there, it went on to become the most popular sports video game of all time, with more than $1 billion poured into the arcade machines.
NBA Jam is a play on basketball. We kind of derived it from a game called Arch Rivals a while back, as you remember, and 2-on-2. But we took it to the next level where we added the NBA license, and then we added spectacular moves that people always dreamed that they wanted to do, but could, of course, can't do in real life.
NBA Hang Time by Williams Electronics picks up where Jam left off, with over 150 killer slams, moves, and shots found anywhere on an NBA court.
The challenge, of course, in Hang Time was to make it different enough from NBA Jam that people would want to play it and keep on playing it for as long as they played Jam. So we started thinking, okay, what can we do to make this better? We added something called Create a Player, where you can go in and for one credit, you can design a player with any particular look. Like we have heads and characters that look like many common people, and then you could choose that face, and then you could also adjust their abilities, their attributes to however you want. So you can run as fast as you want, you can dunk as high as you want, you can be as tall as you want, or as short as you want, as heavy as you want, or as thin as you want, and that type of thing.
NBA Hang Time also became the first basketball game released for Nintendo 64, giving the gamer even more intense action.
We added more characters. We added many more features into the game. We reshot all the players. We redrew all the heads in all the different angles. The artwork is much more beautiful and much nicer. And when you look at the package, it's just a much nicer package than NBA Jam.
If you're looking for realistic NBA action, Hang Time may not be for you. But if you ever dreamed of pulling off superhuman killer dunks against the NBA's top players, you gotta check out NBA Hang Time by Williams.
It's an incredible rush to see people just laughing and having a good time over something you've done and worked on.
Hang time, y'all. You know what I'm saying?
Now let's take a look at some helpful tips that will make Twisted Metal 2 even more intense in our SWAT Pro segment. If you have Twisted Metal 2, you'll notice you have a variety of killer cars to choose from. But if you want to add 2 more to the lineup, here's what you do. Go to the select car screen and hit up, L1, triangle, and right. Now fly through the vehicles, and you'll notice Sweet Tooth has been added to your choices. Now you can use them to terrorize the world. So once again, go to your select car screen and hit up, L1, triangle, and right for the maniacal Sweet Tooth. Now, if you really want to heat up the action, go to your select car screen and hit L1, up, down, and left. This code will bring Boss Minion from the depths of destruction. With Minion now at your disposal, you can annihilate your opponents with ease. One shot and they're dead, plus the special weapon re-energizes within seconds, making him almost invincible. One note though, if you use Minion in tournament mode, you'll not be given a password once you complete the level. So once you begin the game, it's do or die to finish the levels. But Minion is so powerful, you shouldn't have much of a problem. So once again, go to the select car screen and hit L1, up, down, and left, and prepare yourself for Metal Mayhem at its best. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll give out awards for the best games of the year. Most people would agree that 1996 was a good year for the video game industry.
Yes!
And every step of the way, GamePro TV has been there to help you weed out the good games from the bad. And because of our advice, you've made some pretty good decisions and have the best video game collection on the block.
Doesn't feel to be the king, my man.
But now we're going to look back at all the titles Sega, Sony, and the Nintendo 64 released this year and tell you which game was the best game for each system. The 3 nominees for the Sega Saturn Game of the Year are And the winner of the GamePro TV Sega Saturn Game of the Year award, Nights into Dreams. The animation in this title is some of the most beautiful and engaging of any Sega game to date. Also, the gameplay follows the typical format of other platform games, inasmuch as collecting items and avoiding enemies are the keys to success. But the added dynamic of making the character fly through these gorgeous dream worlds takes the game to another level. Nights into Dreams is our Sega Saturn Game of the Year. Here are our nominees for the Nintendo 64 Game of the Year. All right, now it's time to announce the GamePro TV Nintendo 64 Game of the Year. And the winner is Super Mario 64. Here we go! Not much more can be said about the game that hasn't already been uttered. Time magazine named the Nintendo 64 the Machine of the Year, largely because of what Mario proved it was capable of. The machine and the game were the hottest selling items this holiday shopping season, rivaling the Cabbage Patch Doll mania of the 80s. And not once did Mario beg to be tickled. All in all, Super Mario 64 proved the market for video games is still alive and well if the games are exceptional. Now let's take a look at the best games for the Sony PlayStation. The GamePro TV PlayStation Game of the Year is Tomb Raider by Eidos. Most of the elements that make Super Mario 64 great are present in Tomb Raider, but present in a machine that runs on half the computing power of the Nintendo 64. Tomb Raider proved that powerful machines aren't necessary to make powerful games, as it wows you with great animation, intriguing gameplay, and white-knuckle suspense. The designers of the game place you in an adventure that you simply cannot walk away from until it's complete, forcing you to hone your mental skills along the way with some of the most mind-boggling puzzles ever in a video game. Tomb Raider will keep you occupied for months, impressing you every step of the way with what counts: great gameplay. Now let's take a look at GamePro's top 10 games for 1996. When we come back, we'll go behind the scenes of the making of Universal Interactive's Disruptor. Now let's take an inside look at the new animated adventure game for the home computer, Toonstruck. Created by Burst, a division of Virgin Interactive, Toonstruck features the comic genius of Christopher Lloyd, who plays Drew Blink, a cartoonist who becomes trapped in the bizarre cartoon world he created. Along with his sidekick Flux, his mission is to get back to Earth by outwitting the wacky characters he conjured up.
Is this an arcade? No, it's a flower shop. Only we're fresh out of flowers.
Of course it's an arcade, you meathead!
When we created Toonstruck, we wanted to appeal to everybody, so we really went back to that classic cartoon comedy, you know, anvil on the head, the exploding cigar, and then we added our own little twist, you know, shooting bowling balls out of your butt. You know, those kind of things, I think, made Toonstruck a very funny game.
Oh, dear.
Toonstruck combines live action with classic Hollywood-style animation, similar to that of Roger Rabbit. And many top celebrities lent their voices to bring life to the Toonstruck characters.
I'll be your merciless dungeon guard for the duration of your stay.
Working with the celebrities on Toonstruck was really good. They were tremendously professional. Christopher Lloyd took his character very seriously. And if you can imagine, he's in a green screen studio and he's talking to characters that don't exist until we composite them into the scene. So that's a very difficult thing to do and to still deliver a tremendous performance.
This is inexcusable!
Toonstruck offers superb gameplay and hours of fun as the gamer travels through this twisted and crazed animated adventure.
Congratulations, your mission was an astounding, tremendous, cutified success.
As we said earlier, one of the best video games of the year was Tomb Raider by Eidos Interactive, but it can also be one of the most frustrating and mind-boggling as well. An example of which would be the trials and tribulations you encounter in the Lost Valley. At the very top of the waterfall, you'll find a machine minus 3 cogs, rendering it useless. Your mission, if you choose to accept, is to find those 3 cogs. Go down the waterfall. Climb over the first set of rocks. Jump into this pool of water. Now climb to the top of the rock formation. And right at your feet, you'll find the first cog. For the second cog, climb up to this tunnel to get to the end of the broken bridge. Hopefully by now, you've mastered your running, jumping, and hanging on for dear life technique, because you're gonna need it here. If you make it across, you'll be rewarded with the second cog. The third cog is easy enough to find. Just go to the building at the far end of the valley and dive into the pool of water. At the bottom, you'll find the third cog. Now return to the machine, place the cogs in position, and pull the operating lever. The water will be diverted, cutting off the waterfall. At the end of where the stream once flowed, you'll find a door and the end of the level. One of the hottest new games on the market this month is the latest by Universal Interactive Studios, Disruptor, a first-person shooter for the Sony PlayStation.
Disruptor is set in a sort of undefined future. It's on Earth, and it's a science fiction story in which you, the player, take the role of a futuristic commando. And your job is basically first to survive this commando training into what they call the Lightstormer forces. And then you go to various parts across the solar system and sort of clean up after some terrorists and pirates and things like that.
The first thing we wanted to do was make a game that was extremely fun. We're all gamers here, and we wanted a game that we could sit down and enjoy for hours. I think by working with Universal, we've been able to bring in a lot more talent than we ever would have otherwise. For instance, we are filming the live segments of this game with Universal Television, and as a result, the quality is just beyond what we ever could have expected.
And action.
Disruptor continues the growing trend in video games lately of combining the talents of game developers with movie-making experts from Hollywood.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting about this is that there's a lot of emotional content to this part of it. We've got characters that we're going to see. The fact that we're telling a story that I think is integrated into the gameplay, which is really cool. There's actually information that you're going to see and hear in the live action that is going to help you play the game better.
Think good thoughts.
Even the soundtrack got a Hollywood treatment, as musician David Bergeau composes to the action.
The idea was to bring what a film score brings to a film
which is followed very tightly the action. Essentially, the player is a little bit governing how the score will turn out.
Universal's other title, Crash Bandicoot, was an enormous success, giving the PlayStation its first corporate mascot and propelling the company into 3D platform wars with Sega and Nintendo. Adhering to the philosophy of refusing to fix what isn't broken, Universal's latest game, Disruptor, will only be available from the Sony PlayStation.
Disruptor's being done on the PlayStation for a couple of reasons. For one thing, the PlayStation is a good platform to sell on. There are a lot of people with PlayStations, and what we want is a lot of people to play the game. And secondly, the technology present in the PlayStation is really unmatched for creating this kind of a game. Its ability to move a lot of polygons allows us to do a really detailed environment, also allows us to do a lot of interesting things with the enemies.
Disruptor is available at stores now. GamePro TV will be right back. Well, that's all the time we have for this show. Check your local listings for replay times. Next month, we'll head out to Las Vegas to see what's on the horizon at the Winter Consumer Electronics Show. That's next month. Until then, play on. Welcome to another edition of GamePro TV. Today we'll take you to Las Vegas to see what's new at the Winter Consumer Electronics Show. We'll show you the latest interactive project from Steven Spielberg's DreamWorks company and show you the intense competition that took place in New Orleans before the Super Bowl. That's all coming up. But first, rules and regulations. This is how our review system works. Each game that we review is judged and rated in 4 categories. Graphics, in which we focus on the look and feel of the game. Control, in which we tell you how easy or how difficult it is to perform the game character's actions. Sound, in which we tell you if the audio action keeps up with the visual. And fun factor, where we sum up the entire game and tell you, quite frankly, if it's enjoyable or not. Each category of the game receives a rating that can go from 1.0 to 5.0, 1 being absolutely horrible and 5 being absolutely awesome. The actual ratings will appear at the end of the review, where we'll sum up the whole thing. So now let's take a look at Square's latest game, ToeBall #1 for the Sony PlayStation. Squaresoft is a company that is legendary for its incredibly in-depth role-playing games. But with their latest title, ToeBall #1, they're making their first leap into the competitive genre of fighting games. In ToeBall, as in all fighting games, the competitors are thrown into a tournament-type situation, where the winner takes home the top prize, which in this case happens to be the rights to mine the planet of ToeBall for a priceless and rare fuel. 8 fighters are playable, each one sporting some of the best animation seen in any fighting game to date. The developers at Square opted not to texture map the characters, and instead utilized the PlayStation's high-resolution mode, giving the game a crisp and unique look. They also managed to get the animation to clock in at an incredible 60 frames per second, double the speed of most of the other fighting games on the market. As a result, the action is faster and more intense than most gamers may be used to. And if those features weren't enough to wow you, Square also added what they call the Quest mode, where you can take your favorite character through a third-person corridor adventure, full of traps and obstacles. Along the way, you'll encounter weird creatures, just waiting for their opportunity to be humbled by you. Square enlisted the expertise of Seiichi Ishii to head up the development of this game. Ishii's resume includes work on Virtua Fighter and Tekken, 2 of the best fighting games ever made. And it doesn't take long for you to see the resemblance to both titles in ToeBall. The motion captured animation is smooth and realistic, and the player control is extremely responsive. Without a doubt, borrowing from either Virtua or Tekken would probably be a good idea, but unfortunately ToeBall falls just short of capturing the magic of either of those titles for a few reasons. First, the fighting styles between the competitors are too similar to one another. Some may be quicker or stronger than others, but everyone's style is pretty much the same. Second, though the Quest mode is a unique addition to the game, some may find it tedious and uninteresting. While stumbling through these never-ending corridors, you may begin to wonder if the disc space could have been used to add a few more characters to the game like Tekken 2, or more depth to the few that are present to rival Virtua Fighter. Overall, Square's first volley into the fighting arena is entertaining, but not quite up to par with the big boys. But if the game's shortcomings are addressed for the sequel, those big boys may have something to worry about.
All
right, the CES convention welcomes GamePro TV to Las Vegas. Thank you very much.
Here at the annual Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas, all the top companies were on hand to showcase their wares. You could find everything from vibrating recliners, the latest sound systems, celebrities, models, games of chance, and, of course, video games.
I think gaming is going to become more interactive, more of an immersive kind of environment. I think one thing that you're going to see with joysticks and particular game controllers is what's called force feedback, which gives you a tactile response. If you're shooting a gun, you get a recoil. If you hit a wall with a driving wheel, you get a bump. I think there's going to be more interactivity that way, more feedback from the game itself to make it more realistic, to make the game more fun.
While most of the top game companies are waiting to unveil their new products at E3 this summer in Atlanta, there were still some cool items worth a look.
I definitely like the new controller with the N64. It lets you do a lot more stuff that you wouldn't be able to do regularly with other game systems like the PlayStation or Nintendo 16 even.
In years past, where video game companies dominated the show, PC and interactive computer games were the hot topic.
PCs are getting closer to your arcade quality of graphics. You still don't have it, but you're getting closer. But you've also got capabilities with the standard PC that you don't have with a gaming machine. You've got, learning capabilities. You've got the interactive capabilities. Obviously, you've got the communications capabilities. Work at home. All of that is available on the PC. So we're very happy about that.
Well, I think the biggest reason somebody would want to play an internet game is that it gets pretty boring just playing against a computer. A computer only has so many different combinations that it can throw at you, and a human is obviously the best component. So with internet gaming, you get the ability to interact with someone else and compete against them. It actually extends the gaming experience and makes it a lot more fun and a lot more realistic.
Sega Club is a receiver that we're using that lets people know when they're looking at satellite receivers, they see the name Sega, they recognize the name, it's marketing. It has nothing to do with the video games other than the name.
The Consumer Electronics Show may no longer be the ultimate video game convention, but still offers some new ideas to video gamers. GamePro TV will be right back. Las Vegas, the city of lights, the gaming capital of the world, where these gamers gamble away millions of dollars for a chance to earn big bucks. These gamers pour their money into some of the hottest arcades in the country, where simply big smiles are the payoff.
Hey, welcome GamePro TV to Coney Island Emporium.
At the newly opened New York Hotel and Casino, the Coney Island Emporium, currently the largest arcade facility in Las Vegas, combines the feel and sounds of a traditional carnival, along with some of the latest virtual reality and arcade games found anywhere today.
There's so many people in here that the customers get spread out over, it's over 500 feet long. Okay, and there's a roller coaster down at the other end. So people tend to travel and walk right through the whole thing, walk up and down the facility, and they play everything. So the distribution of money here is across the board, covers all of it. This is a vacation land. It's middle America. They'll come here because there's so much excitement, and it's 24 hours a day. There are no clocks. When you're on vacation, it doesn't matter, because when you go home, you'll rest. Here you have fun.
Just down the street, the fabulous Luxor Hotel is home to one of the largest virtual reality centers in the world, Sega Virtual Land.
We have over 220 games, I believe, now we're up to. Like you see, we have the Indy 500, and we have other simulator rides. We have virtual reality. We have Virtua Fighter 3s, the latest games that are in right now. We have Redemption for smaller children. And we have just about everything old and new right now.
Gamers can be totally immersed in a true interactive environment, from a high-speed orbiting F-14 flight simulator to battling up to 4 opponents in a high-impact tank command game, where the player feels every shot and hit of his or her tank.
The Indy 500 ride is an 8-player simulator. It's $3 per person to ride. They race against each other. It is run on hydraulics. The cars move. They crash, they tumble over. It's a lot of fun. It's completely interactive, and most people that come off love it.
Congratulations there, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for racing on Indy 500.
It's great, real fun. Recommend it to anybody.
Well, one of our
signature mottos right now at our corporation is "Get out of the house." That's the new Sega GameWorks motto. And that's what we would like to see people get out of the house, get out with their family, friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, come on out, try video games, and just have the whole game room experience with the new technology that's out.
Next month, Sega will continue to lead the arcade industry with the openings of GameWorks in Seattle, a 30,000 square foot arcade mecca, spearheaded by Steven Spielberg. GameWorks will combine the hottest virtual reality games in the world with elements of the classic arcade. In May of '97, a sprawling 50,000 square foot facility will open right here in Las Vegas. GameWorks represents a revolutionary approach to the way people play and interact. Gamers, families, and friends will become totally immersed in another world of fun and adventure. Sega may be battling it out on the home video market, but they are definitely on the cutting edge of the arcade industry. Now we go from Steven Spielberg's company to George Lucas's and their latest video game contributions to the Star Wars saga. First, Dark Forces. Dark Forces enjoyed modest success on the PC and is now available for the Sony PlayStation. This Doom-style shooter puts you inside the Imperial headquarters on a mission to steal the plans for the creation of the Death Star. Of course, Darth Vader's stormtroopers aren't happy about the idea, so they gang up on you to destroy you, which in the video game world is where the fun should start. But Dark Forces doesn't quite get the job done. This game suffers from average to below average graphics and animation, especially in the close-ups, where the pixelation problems are horribly apparent. Also, Dark Forces fails to come up with enough unique features to separate it from all the other Doom clones out on the market. If you're a fan of the Star Wars series, then Dark Forces is probably a must-have, regardless of its shortcomings. But if your goal is to find a good first-person shooter, you may want to look elsewhere, quite possibly in the direction of Disruptor by Universal Interactive.
You're not authorized in this area.
LucasArts continues the Star Wars legacy with Shadows of the Empire for the Nintendo 64. Your adventure begins on the frozen tundra of the ice planet Hoth. Your mission is to knock out all the Imperial walkers by piloting a high-flying snowspeeder and blasting away at will. After disposing of the AT-ATs, your next mission is to infiltrate the Empire's strongholds by eliminating stormtroopers and other sinister creatures that get in your way. As in all levels of Shadows, you're able to change camera angles and point of view shots, similar to that of Dark Forces. After infiltrating the Empire's headquarters, take flight in Dash's version of the Millennium Falcon, the Outrider. The power of the Nintendo 64 can truly be seen in these battles against TIE fighters, as you soar freely through space, taking out your opponents at will. Overall, the graphics are amazing, the control is seamless, whether it be shooting, running, or flying. And just like in the movie, John Williams' fully orchestrated soundtrack guides the player through his own battle against the Empire. If you're a fan of Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire is a must for your collection. And may the Force be with you. Well, let's stick with science fiction and give you our review of ASC Games' Perfect Weapon. What do you get when you combine the puzzle and problem-solving aspects of Tomb Raider with the quick, frantic fighting action of Tekken 2? Well, ASC Games hopes you get Perfect Weapon. In Perfect Weapon, Blake Hunter, Navy SEAL and champion martial artist, finds himself teleported to another dimension where he is on his own and under constant attack. The fighting scenes in this game are what really sets it apart. Instead of a lot of one-on-one fighting, the developers opted to put you in the middle of an alien barroom brawl, taking on 3 to 4 bad guys at once. This adds to the depth of the fighting because your opponents gang up on you, and you have to protect your back and sides as well as fend off the guy right in front of you. But don't worry, your hero didn't buy the World Martial Arts Championship from the corner store. He's come equipped with over 100 moves and knows how to use them. The moves are also relatively easy to perform if you're familiar with Tekken's fighting engine. Perfect Weapon isn't all fighting though. The puzzle aspects of the game are just as important. The control in this game may take a little getting used to, especially when you jump from the search and discover modes into the fighting for dear life modes, but those situations will become easier to handle with experience. Perfect Weapon has an imaginative concept and great artwork. And since this is really the first game of its kind, there's no genre comparison. But the idea of combining problem-solving and adventure games with fighters is long overdue. Maybe Perfect Weapon will help usher in a whole new genre of gaming. Stay with us. When we come back, we'll give you your first look at Square's Final Fantasy VII, and we'll take you to New Orleans for Madden Bowl 97.
Yo, what's up? I'm Bill Bellamy. GamePro TV will be back in 2 minutes. 2. Yeah, I want 2 minutes. All right, man.
Set 'em up and hit the lanes. Every night can be your bowling night with 10-Pin Alley by ASC. 10-Pin Alley is a great game with excellent graphics and unbelievable sounds of a true bowling experience. As a player, you have the choice of a variety of bowlers, from a 300-pound behemoth to an 8-year-old. Players can change clothes, skin color, hair, bowling ball, weight, lane conditions, type of ball, and skill level. You also have the choice of 3 bowling centers, from your local bowling alley to the hip groove of Maui Bowl to the neon flux world of the Midnight Congo Bowl. Players can either play open style, one-on-one, team, or compete against a slew of bowlers for a chance to earn big bucks on the TPA tournament. Similar to that of golf video games, 10-Pin Alley relies on a power and release meter to determine the flight of the ball. The green arrow also designates the amount of spin placed on each throw. An arrow at the top of the lane indicates where the bowler should line up before each toss. Getting used to the control can be very frustrating, and you'll be throwing a lot of gutter balls the first time out, or even worse, knocking yourself out. Plus, the game also offers a glimpse of the Bowling Hall of Fame, which should be of interest to bowling fans of all ages. If you're into bowling, or even if you're not, 10-Pin Alley by ASC is a great game to just have fun. It strikes out every time. GamePro TV traveled down to New Orleans recently to be part of one of the biggest get-togethers of the year, Madden Bowl 97. Football and entertainment's hotshots venture down to the Big Easy for one main purpose: to be crowned champion of Madden football for 1997.
It's great to have all you people here and be part of this, and I wish you all the best. Thanks for coming.
We had the competition going on tour with, everyone on tour, and it got pretty brutal. So we came in here and figured, oh man, these football guys can't hang with us. I'm ready.
One timeout, 29 seconds left in the game.
And I think I'm unstoppable in Madden 97. I mean, that's all. It's all good. We had a tournament up at the Jets, and I was the best up there. I was the best in Dallas when I came down to Dallas, so I think I'm gonna be the best here.
Well, I was just talking to William Floyd. He said he was. Yeah. And yeah, I'm not going to argue with him. The guy comes up and he tells me, he says, hey, I'm going to win this thing. I say, okay, you're going to win. So I'll go along. I'm not going to argue with him.
The Bears' offense isn't that good.
We're not going for it.
In spite of all the happy faces, it didn't take long before the action started to get hot and hectic, and for the winners to start separating themselves from the losers.
Game cheated me. Game cheated me.
I'm not upset.
One of the toughest battles was between Jimmy Spencer of the Cincinnati Bengals and Darius Rucker of Hootie and the Blowfish. With less than 30 seconds to go in the game, Rucker throws a long pass in a late attempt to tie the game, but after 2 unsuccessful attempts to punch it in, the outcome of the game rested on this 4th and 14th prayer.
Let's play the game, Scott. That's it!
I cannot believe I lost. I can't believe I lost.
You would have turned in favorite.
I know. I can't believe I lost.
Defense win the games, and that's the defense that's how I've been winning all the games, with defense.
So the championship boiled down to a match between Jimmy Spencer and Kajana Carter. With time winding down in the game and Kajana's Bengals leading by 6 points, Jimmy Spencer's Colts tried to run the ball in. With the extra point, Spencer and the Colts take a 1-point lead. But Kajana showed the entire tournament that his offense is explosive. All he needs is a field goal.
So, it's always in his zone.
So how's it feel to be the Madden Bowl 97 champion?
Oh, it feels great. It feels great. I think I'm gonna ride, and I might take my trophy with me to Europe.
Now let's take a look at a few games that will be out soon. Psygnosis' latest game, The City of Lost Children, is based on the surreal movie of the same title by filmmakers Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Marc Caro. The game follows the adventures of an orphan girl in her attempt to save a young boy's dreams from the evil intentions of a mad scientist. The movie was stylishly photographed by cinematographer Darius Hunji, and the game developer's goal was to capture the same look and feel as well. The City of Lost Children will hit stores later this month. Final Fantasy VII, the latest in the highly acclaimed Final Fantasy series, will leap into next-generation gaming for the first time via the Sony PlayStation. Over 100 designers have been hard at work at Square's Tokyo offices to complete the latest installment in this role-playing classic. The company spent over $3 million already in development, and from the looks of it, it's been well worth it. Square wanted FF7 to play like a game, but feel like a movie. The transitions between pre-rendered scenes and gameplay are seamless, and the animation is completely 3D. Fans of the series are used to playing FF on a Nintendo system, and originally FF7 was to be released for the powerful Nintendo 64. But Square abandoned those plans and signed on with the PlayStation instead. Executives at the company said that the sheer size and graphic intensity of the game would have cost too much to execute on a cartridge-based system. Final Fantasy VII will instead be stuffed into 2 or maybe even 3 CDs for the Sony PlayStation. Role-playing games haven't had much success here in the States. Square hopes that this game could be the one that propels the genre into the mainstream. Final Fantasy VII will be available later this year.
You're watching GamePro TV.
Well, that's all the time we have for this show. Check your local listings to see when this one replays. We hope you enjoyed it. And until next time, play on.
You're not